In a gated island community in Montreal, a biotech company is hired to take care of the fields of an exclusive golf club. In order to allow wealthy people to play golf year-round, they sprinkle the area with their newest fertilizer, which melts snow and keeps the grass looking lovely and green throughout the winter. Dan, the security guard, carries a lot of supplies to his house. The following day in town, he's a deranged survivalist who lives for the worst-case scenario and was brainwashed by a radio program that promotes every possible conspiracy. Dan tries unsuccessfully to start a fire tonight using a shotgun shell's powder, but it only creates a tiny explosion that burns one of his eyebrows. In the golf club, Dan's daughter Patricia works as a caddy while Michelle, the CEO of the biotech company, plays golf with a rich couple to show them how great the grass is doing thanks to their treatment. However, underneath the soil, the fertilizer particles are multiplying and contaminating the town's water. At a studio, an actor called Jock has a glass of tap water before leaving to do some groceries. At the store, all the fruit and tools are washed with tap water as well, and on the shelves water is sprinkled to keep perishables fresh. Suddenly Jock starts feeling a bit dizzy but ignores it for now. When he arrives home, he notices that his teeth are turning green and his stomach is growling. By the time he finds his wife in the bathroom, he has fully transformed into a zombie. He bites the unfortunate woman, consuming her flesh and causing her to change as well.
Jock joins her in the tub as their eyes turn green and they grind to a halt.
Michelle and the couple head back to the main building at the club and are taken aback to find it deserted. A man suddenly bolts outside, screaming that they must flee as people are ill. A number of zombie employees quickly emerge to pursue him. At that moment, a dog also appears and the wife calls it over, but the animal furiously jumps on her and bites her neck. Michelle and the husband immediately toss the dog away, only to see more zombies showing up. While the woman freezes as her body transforms, both men rush inside the building and lock the door to keep the zombies out. However, the dog manages to sneak in and bites the husband in the leg, so they lock it up in another room. The zombies gather at the door and start pounding before the husband also transforms and starts chasing after Michelle, who rushes to hide in the kitchen after grabbing a knife. In town, Dan gets a call from an old lady who says her neighbors are being extra noisy and fighting a lot. Dan goes over there and when he rings the bell, the neighbors appear against the door, revealing they're zombies. At the same time, the old lady turns into a zombie too and starts chasing after Dan, who immediately hides in his car and tries calling for backup, but nobody answers him. Dan tries contacting Patricia as more zombies emerge outside his window, but she is too busy trying to get away from the monsters to answer. Concerned, Dan makes the decision to search for his daughter using his car equipped with a weapon instead of the corporate vehicle. The mother of a teenage boy nearby, Andre, warns him to use bottled water to keep the baby safe when he almost uses tap water to prepare his sister Annie's milk. Andre never drinks water of any kind, preferring to stick to soda. Andre sticks to Pepsi and never drinks any form of water. Soon the mother starts feeling dizzy, but Andre blames it on all her exercising. Shortly after, the mother transforms into a zombie and pursues Andre throughout the house in an attempt to harm him. Fearful, the child flees outdoors and stumbles. But just as his mother is going to go to him, Dan strikes her with his vehicle. Andre tries to aid her because she's still alive despite her injuries, but Dan stops him. He explains that 911 isn't picking up and tells Andre to hide in his house. Then he leaves. Andre pulls his mother by the legs and drags her back inside the home as more zombies approach because he won't let her go. After rushing to close all the doors, he tries calling 911, only to get a record message saying that the island is under quarantine. At the bridge that connects the island with the mainland, it's revealed that cops from the city have put up a gate and nobody can go in or out. At that moment, the mother tries to attack Annie, so Andre drags her away and locks her up in the bathroom. The mother notices that the shower head is dropping some water and decides to get inside the tub. Meanwhile, Annie keeps crying, causing the zombies to keep gathering outside the door. Andre decides to cover her with pillows, a blanket, and even a big plushie until the crying can't be heard anymore, and the zombies leave. A zombie unexpectedly rushes inside and nearly grabs Andre when his cat returns to the house through the pet door a few minutes later. The zombie stops moving when the child exits the room, but it starts up again when Andre returns carrying a golf club. But rather than attacking, he chooses to hide. Patricia hides in the garage at the golf course before eventually calling her father for assistance. Dan soon finds himself confronted by a group of zombies outside, but he fights them head-on, swiftly taking out a couple with a knife and bringing down others before sprinting inside. At that moment, the police move away from the bridge gate because the military arrives in planes to bomb the main areas of the island, which cuts off the power. The next morning, Annie's nanny tries to take the bridge to go to work, but it's been destroyed too. Meanwhile, Andre records the zombies through the window, only stopping to watch a press conference of the Minister of Public Security. The man explains they had to destroy the bridge to isolate the problem and swears the situation is under control. At that moment, Andre's phone runs out of battery. Afterward, Ender checks on his mom and notices she's covered in some green goo. Suddenly, Annie crawls in and the mom tries to attack her, so Andre makes noise and shakes her favorite vegetables to make her follow him instead. Eventually, they reach the living room and the mom accidentally bumps against the TV stand, causing the television to fall and kill her. Devastated, Andre has no choice but to take the body back to the bathroom and notices grass growing on her injuries. He then grabs her phone, but sadly it's broken. Then Andre takes a ladder to the front door to look outside and confirms the zombies are just standing there under the sun. Tired of the confinement, he grabs the golf club and puts Annie in a baby carrier before opening the door, letting the zombies see the cat and chase after it. With the entrance cleared, Andre runs as fast as he can toward the grocery store while the zombies chase him. The doors are locked and he almost gets surrounded by the monsters, but suddenly a door opens and Dan drags him inside. Dan hasn't had a plan, but he's been here since yesterday and has set up a small camping area. They will die of hypothermia from swimming in the river since all of the boats have been taken away. While Annie searches the area for baby formula, Andre heads off in search of it. Out of nowhere, Annie spots a zombie behind locked doors. Patricia is the one who's been contaminated as well. Dan is keeping her around in the hopes that she may eventually be cured by someone. While at the golf club, Michelle has reinforced all of the doors and is communicating with his colleagues via radio. They have informed him that experts are en route and that he needs to adhere to protocol as well. He kicks the zombie dog away because it keeps barking at him. He kills his pal in the kitchen. It is also revealed Dan is still unable to light a fire back at the store, so Andre resorts to using a blowtorch. While they eat something, they listen to Dan's favorite radio program, which accuses eco-terrorists of being responsible for the zombie attack. The Minister of Security is interviewed by the host, but the man is your standard politician. He sidesteps questions or uses evasive language to make no impressions. The host is suspicious and believes the government would sacrifice its people in order to clean up the area. Dan decides to call the radio station and explain that there are survivors, asking for help. However, the host points out the rest of the world doesn't want the infection, so he wants to know what's going on before taking anyone's side. Frustrated, Dan hangs up. Afterward, Dan and Andre discuss their options and agree they should find the cause behind this so a vaccine can be created. Dan thinks about it and comes to the conclusion it must be in the water because it's the only thing every single person has in common, and he doesn't drink it from the tap because of his paranoia. He even believes that terrorists might have contaminated the water, which Andre finds absurd. Shortly after, Patricia, whose head has been placed in a cage to prevent biting, is taken by the three of them as they exit the business. They discover a group of green goopy zombies lounging in the sun, and a small girl strikes Dan the moment she spots him. He pushes her off swiftly, but he continues because he lacks the courage to kill her. Before the zombies catch up, the party escapes the area safely by getting into Dan's car. In the meantime, two armed twins dispatched by the biotech business show up to the golf club and effortlessly dispatch every zombie who tries to stand in their way. Inside, Michelle is burning all the contracts and documents related to his deal with the club, but he keeps a small sample of the fertilizer. The twins soon find him and Michelle takes one of their suitcases, which contains spheres with the cure that will kill the infection within 24 hours. When he grabs a sphere, the twins capture him and force him to eat the fertilizer sample before knocking him out. As they drag his body away, the sphere drops to the floor. Back to the survivors, they arrive at the water plant and decide to leave Annie in the car or her crying will attract zombie. They can't leave Patricia with the baby, so Dan and Andre bring her along when they enter the building, where a grassy zombie is hiding in the water. Patricia senses this and begins running to find him, so the guys have no choice but to follow her. She quickly finds the pool and jumps into it, causing Dan to jump as well to rescue her. The other zombie reappears out of nowhere and is about to attack, but Dan locates Patricia and holds her in front of him, causing the other zombie to retreat. As he gets closer, Andre knows the zombies won't fight, but the creature hears him and comes after him right away. Dan tries to pull Patricia out of the water, but he tears off her arm in the process, and as Andre runs outside and other zombies join the hunt. When Andre eventually makes it to the car, he hides inside, and shortly after, Dan emerges as well, using Patricia as a barrier to keep the zombies away. When they get into the car with the siblings, Andre notices Patricia also has a phone due to a noise he hears. When he takes it and unlocks it with her amputated arm, he notices that grass is sprouting on the wound. Dan finds it strange that there is grass in the winter until he recalls the newest invention made by golf clubs and realizes that golfers, not terrorists, are responsible for this. The twins start smashing the spheres on the grass at the golf course in an attempt to remove all the evidence. Andre makes careful to document everything, since shortly after Dan's crew shows up, they notice the odd smoke on the grass. They rush to the front door and find it locked, so Dan looks for another entrance. He climbs to the roof and gets inside to open the door for the others, then locks Patricia in the storage room while Andre uses chairs to form a playpen for Annie. Dan and Andre begin investigating the building and find the dog, which is still breathing and covered in grass. At that moment, Dan starts feeling dizzy and Annie begins crying, so Andre rushes to her, calm her down. However, he discovers she's escaped the improvised playpen. While Andre looks for his sister, Dan goes down a dark corridor and discovers a bunch of bombs that will blow up the building soon. Even though he starts to feel worse, he doesn't give up and keeps searching until he locates the chamber where the timer that connects to all of the bombs is located. Dan uses Patricia's arm to stop the timer just before his eyes turn green because he falls and is too weak to get up. The twins walk back inside to look into it after noticing nothing is erupting outside. Before departing, they find Annie in the kitchen and feed her the fertilizer. Andre keeps searching and eventually finds his sister, whom he takes away after seeing a zombie like Michelle in a closed chamber. In another room, he finds his way blocked by the twins, who cover Annie's mouth and grab Andre to feed him the fertilizer. However, before the sample drops, Annie becomes a zombie too and bites the twin's finger off. The other twin is almost attacked by Dan, and when she fends him off, Andre pushes her toward him and Dan bites her. When Andre moves back, he steps on the cure sphere, causing the smoke to spread through the room and start working inside Danny and Dan. Afterward, Dan chases after Andre and they make it to the kitchen, but when Dan is about to bite him, he senses Annie's presence and pulls back. At the same time, the twins take out their guns and shoot each other simultaneously before one can finish transforming. Next, Andre takes Dan's old school phone from his jacket and uses it to make Patricia's phone ring. When he finds it, he makes a video explaining everything, begging for help. Andre brings Dan to the storage room so he can remain with his daughter while the footage makes its way to the news. The government will soon dispatch army helicopters to perform thorough cleaning. While a troop of troops uses flamethrowers to eliminate any zombies in their path, Andre rushes outside to call for assistance and brings Patricia's arm so that immunizations can be administered. But before the second survivor could reach the soldiers, she was shot and killed. Andre makes the decision to hide after the treatment takes effect and Annie recovers because it is clear that the soldiers aren't there to save lives. Dan recuperates at the golf club as well, but as soon as the soldiers unlock the door, they set Patricia and Dan on fire. The Minister of Public Security announces that the infection has already been contained and eliminated, but he's seen drinking from a mug with the logo of the biotech company, implying he was part of the conspiracy all along. Andre keeps wandering around, finding more bodies of survivors that were shot down. Suddenly he notices something in the river. It's a boat of volunteers led by Annie's nanny, who rescue him without hesitation. As they leave the island, Andre realizes the arm is useless now and throws it in the water, where a fish takes a bite and quickly becomes a zombie.